Welcome to the Operator Signal. Today I'm joined by Jim Barker. He is Chief Revenue Officer for Cooperative Computing. Jim, thank you for joining us today. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about the company.
Glad to be here, James. Thanks for having me. We're Plano based. We're a digital enablement firm helping growth focused organizations accelerate into the automated economy. So what that means is a lot of organizations deal with lack of automation in their environments and lack of personalization and making good data driven decisions. So we tend to go in and help really mid market companies get there, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Yes, indeed it does, for sure. I think you're probably one of the most popular sectors there is right now. The last couple of years is like digital transformation, right?
Tremendous amount going on in the digital world for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Good deal. Well, let's get right to it. So, in your operating environment, in your market, what are you seeing? Is there growth or tightening?
Yeah, great question, James. We're seeing growth, but I think it's a little bit different type of growth than normal. It's very disciplined investing. What we're noticing it are a lot of leaders are getting a lot more disciplined around how do we pay for outcomes instead of pay for things, if that makes sense. And so, in our specific space, what that would relate to is things like one-off software purchases. The days of just trying out software because it's a silver bullet and it's going to save the day are gone. A lot of these large multi-year like enterprise deployments and costing millions of dollars and taking tons of resources are gone. A lot more people are really focused on proof of value and how do you select and invest right to make sure that a dollar invested turns into one x, whatever that x is, 10x or whatever, in a return fashion. We see a lot of growth. I think if you think about the operating environment and our operating environment, we tend to be global in nature, but really highly concentrated in the States. And specifically in Texas market, there's a lot of momentum with businesses moving in, population's naturally growing because of it. We got a phenomenal base here in logistics and finance, as you will know, and then naturally all this stuff going on with AI and data centers is causing a lot of growth. And at the same time, I think what we're also seeing is that investing in at least the digital world, as you mentioned, in the digital things are really a much more disciplined investing model than before.
Yep, lots and lots of growth here in DFW around data centers and all of that. So, what are you seeing as far as pressures inside the business? Is it around pricing, capital, technology, maybe supply chain, or something else?
Likely, a good question. Likely a bit of all those you mentioned. I think one, we'll naturally continue to have a little bit of an issue with labor. Conversation around labor shifted quite a bit. Now we have our labor force is made up of not only human talent, but also digital capabilities as well. So digital workforce will continue to grow. In some of those other areas, since we have a really strong hub here around supply chain, and logistics and all of that, we have to remember we're still rebounding from COVID from that. We already had, supply chain issues before COVID came along. It only enhanced it at a very significant pace. And we all know our political landscape also causes some of that volatility as well. So I think we're seeing a lot more pressures inside the business of saying, in a lot of cases with our clients specifically around manufacturing, logistics, those types of operations, they're trying to do more with less, but automating the heck out of everything possible within the business.
Yeah, for sure. And so, where are you still finding growth opportunities? Is that in new markets or talent or something else that you're finding?
I'd say we're still seeing a lot of growth in like supply chain related businesses, but we're seeing it across the board. A lot of it's really around, in our space, it's the leaders who can rethink how they do work. Work in the days that I came into the work world many years ago. I won't date myself that far, but many years ago was just done a lot differently. So a lot of people now, organizations are really looking at opportunity, and leadership is really looking at ways of saying, how do we do work differently than ever before? And so that's where AI and automation and all of that plays a huge part. And so every company in the world at this point is looking at ways of saying, how can I hyper automate what we need to do and do it better and more efficient, and also control my cost in the process. Competition continues to be a force for most industries. And so the people who can do it and do it profitably are usually getting rewarded for their efforts.
Yeah. Is there if you can, is there maybe like an example or a case study or something like that, like of a growth project that was particularly exciting for you guys, maybe in the last year or maybe in the last quarter or anything like that?
Yeah, I think one of the opportunities that we're seeing a lot of, if we think about what's going on in this AI space, there's the opportunity of automating. A lot of people are playing with AI agents, and we kind of moved beyond that. Believe it or not, it's been years ago now that generative AI came out and everyone started using it. And while it's still in its infancy for a lot of us, the market is ripe. Almost every software platform you buy now has some degree of agentic AI built within it, where we're seeing more use cases around really helping companies with scaling and controlling their profitability is really around building digital workforce. And so what I mean by that is really going in and saying what areas of the business are very repetitive, very mundane, and not usually as attractive for human talent to do. And we're seeing a lot of growth in the ability to build digital people into those roles so that they can actually handle cradle to grave what that job responsibility is with governance around them. So if you think about, now having a digital employee in your organization that is not sharing everything out and the public LLMs are out with the world externally, you've got some governance around it, although they may use those tools. That's where we're seeing a lot of that. So in environments like supply chain, we'll go in and implement a digital person in a specific role. That may be scheduling, and it's a process that they can well define and articulate, and yet they have high turnover in it because it's just very intense phone calling. It's not usually fun work. It's a lot of data entry. And so we build digital capabilities there to say, let's personify and put someone in that specific role, scheduling Sam here that can actually do that work for you. And it's really all built within the digital environment. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff for sure. I think there's a rabbit hole we could go down there, but I won't. So, all right, let's think a little broader then. What forces are shaping your decisions over the next 12 to 24 months?
Ooh, wonderful question. I think AI will continue to it's moving kind of beyond that hype to now execution. We're beyond the phase of companies saying, should we use AI? And now it's like, where can we use it to get measurable business value? That one will continue to be important to us, and we'll continue to evolve and stay close to that and continue to build out use cases around it. I think the speed, we're seeing a lot of organizations, just when things get really tight and competitive and all of that, we see a lot of proof to value. So a lot of in the last, I would say the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of organizations looking for really quick ROI.
Mhm.
So, this kind of goes back to what I was saying a minute ago around not large projects that are multi-year or 18-month projects or things like that, but what can I do that can create value, get some work done and do it in a valuable way that gives me an ROI within 2 or 3 months. Those things are not uncommon anymore. And all that kind of ties back to, how people are identifying what are the ways that we can actually perform business in a very profitable manner, as opposed to every time we take on more business or another initiative, we have to hire a bunch of people to go fulfill those needs. And then the other thing I think about, just in regards to your question, is data. Data's
Yep,
Making data driven decisions hugely valuable. Everyone knows the importance of it now. Everyone also knows that they can go get it in a different way than they ever could before. And so that'll continue to be an important thing for us to stay close to.
for sure, for sure. Okay, last question, and this is more of along the lines of prediction. So, what do you think comes next for private company operators like yourself in the leadership roles? What do you think comes next for operators here in DFW?
I think the level of sophistication of our thinking and creative abilities to reimagine how to get work done is really important. I think that a lot of I'll say now 30 something years in my career experience, we've solved things with, let's define the process and then put people on top of the process and go do it. And I think now a lot of people are looking at, they're looking at it from a standpoint of, can I really identify what's the proven quantifiable value from it? So, we preach around clarity, having really good clarity on what are you trying to solve and what does the end result look like? What does success look like? Focus, how can you get your team really well focused on it and to make sure that they execute on what they need to do, and then have the visibility to see if it's working or not. That goes back to tying it back to outcomes and results, just the ability to go back and say, we invested $1, we anticipated that it would make us $100 over the next year. Somehow, some way, there's a good way of measuring that. We're using data to help with a lot of that, where people can say 2 months in, 4 months in, 6 months in, are they making the progress that they need to make?
Yep.
And I think that's going to be important for. I think it will continue to be important for local businesses. We'll still reap the benefits of a strong base of what I was talking about: manufacturing, logistics, construction, all of that right here in our own backyard. So, but I think it'll still be more disciplined investing on that journey for those people who are in seats like mine who are going out solving some of these problems with some of these clients. I think they'll have a lot more challenge around disciplined investing.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Jim, appreciate the time you share with us and some of the insights there. Lots of shifts have occurred, it sounds like, in these last few years and even in the last decade. So it's always good to hear from leaders like yourself on how folks are adjusting to that. For those watching, I hope you can find this as useful as I do. For more episodes of the Operator Signal, you can follow me on YouTube or connect on LinkedIn. Jim Barker, thank you for spending time with us, sir.
James, keep up the great work. Appreciate you.